Imagine going to an LCS and actually getting good customer service. I know, it must be a pipe dream, but apparently someone out there in the comic collecting world actually got it. Yes, I know, it's mind-blowing. The fact that this person got good customer service and is on the comic book collecting Reddit forum, and I thought that I would make a video about it because only something like this could actually be newsworthy. An article that was upvoted so much that it is actually one of the hottest topics on that particular subreddit. And so in this video, we're going to talk about it and talk about, kind of the LCS experience in general. I kind of want to know what you guys are feeling right now with your LCSs. Are you enjoying them? Are you liking them? Are you having good experiences? Let's have this conversation in this video here today, and let's see what these people are talking about on the actual forum. But of course, before I get into the video, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I appreciate it. Help support the channel, doing those things. But let's get into this video here today. LCS owners should take note. I was traveling recently and found 2 LCSs in different states that I will revisit when I'm back in town. The first comic shop totaled up my books and then asked me what I would pay for them. It was over $300 and I said I would pay $20 less than the total. He told me I was shortchanging myself. He gave me 20% off the total. I was shocked and I asked why he would do that. It was a mix of new releases and back issues. He said he would rather I get a deal so I would go back to his store and buy more books. I told him I was from out of state and he said it didn't matter. He knew that if I felt I got a good deal, I would be back the next time I was in town, and he was right. The next time I'm there, I will be visiting that store. That's pretty cool. In another state, I picked up a few reasonable priced FMV books, some books slightly below FMV. In talking to the owner, I told him his pricing on back issues was really good, and he said I would rather sell a book for $8 than keep it on the shelf for $10. Wow. I would rather sell a book for $8 than keep it on a shelf for $10. That's a bar right there. That amazing to me. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Needless to say, I will visit that comic shop again. I like chatting up the owners at these shops to see how things are going. I like the attitude of both those owners, and I will be back soon to pick up more books from those LCSs. All my LCSs books are overpriced, and one does counterpricing. Ooh, counterpricing. I haven't bought any back issues from my LCSs. Well, there you go, guys. I mean, again, I just thought that this was such an interesting, article over on the comic collecting Reddit because this guy had 2 good LCS experiences. And the whole sentiment of the people talking about it is like, this is mind-blowing. It's like, has it really been that bad for you guys out there? Has your LCS treated you poorly? I mean, for me personally, I've said it many times on the channel, I love shopping at LCSs. I have some great LCSs around me, which, I'll give them a shout out later on in this video, that I always love going to. I always have great experiences there, and I've been lucky, but I am also in the Southern California area. There's tons of LCSs around, and there's some not so great ones. So I've been able to sort of curate and cultivate which shops I end up going to, and I return to the ones that I have good experiences with. And I understand that running an LCS is tough. I'm very, very sympathetic to, the plight of the LCS out there in the comic book market. But it does feel like a lot of them, don't run the best business. And again, I'm not an expert on this sort of thing. I can't speak to it. LCS owners who are maybe watching this video, you guys let me know what you think about, some of these LCSs, with how they do their practices, especially the counter pricing one, which we're going to talk about in a second because that's always a spicy topic. Let's see what the people had to say. I got a shop about 45 minutes from me I really like. Don't go there a lot since it's further away than my usual place, but they have the best selection of back issues I've ever seen, and they really specialize in higher end Silver Age books, and they get some awesome Golden Age books sometimes too. Anyway, I went last month on my birthday and picked out a few books to treat myself, told him I was also looking for the first appearance of Damian Wayne, which he conveniently had in the box behind the counter he was still sorting. When I was paying, I mentioned it was my birthday to treat myself, and he was like, "Oh, it's your birthday? Here you go, happy birthday," and tossed the first cameo of Damian in my bag as well. Love that store and try to make it out there every couple of months. That's awesome. It's the little things that I think sometimes LCS stores do that you just never forget. Like, I will never forget all the times the LCS has just been like, "Oh, it's $27. How about you just pay 20?" Or hey, why don't you get 20% off on this particular stack that you're buying? All the times that LCSs volunteer extra, discount or customer service or whatever it is, like I never forget that stuff. It's always appreciative, especially when it comes out of nowhere. You didn't even ask for it. And that's always so nice. And I always go back to those stores. I'm just, here we are, like tax season. I was just doing all my taxes and I was looking at, the amount of money that I've spent at stores in my area. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like in the tens of thousands of dollars, like with certain stores, because that's just my love for their business. Like I just enjoy going to their store and I always go back and I'm always happy to spend money because of how they run their business. I feel like their prices are fair. I feel like their grading is fair. The customer service is great. And every time they do those things, it just makes me, a more supportive customer every time around. This guy says, name them. This is actually another funny thing that is, maybe it's a little bit of a different video, but we have to talk about this really quickly. Like this person writes this great review about 2 LCSs he goes to, but he doesn't actually name them. And, this I think is the whole like opaque nature of comic books, holding your secrets close to the vest, like not wanting to disclose, your honey holes and things like that. And this is also another part that I think is actually really tough for LCSs and comic book businesses. On the one hand, you are really, really want to be supportive of the LCSs that do right by you. But on the other hand, like, you almost don't want to shout out the LCSs that are really good, especially if you're someone who likes to buy, some of the more expensive keys and stuff like that, because you don't want the competition. You don't want those other vultures coming out and picking, your honey. So it's a really difficult balance to kind of deal with that. And, I kind of feel bad for shops that do it right, but then like don't want people to shout them out because I'm sure they could definitely, appreciate some of that business. And, I always have that experience, even when I buy from like online dealers and Instagram accounts and retailers and stuff, even though I'm always kind of joking, apprehensive to shout them out. Of course, I always shout them out because, they deserve it. I think if you run a good business, you deserve to get shout out. And if I can give you my stamp of approval, to anyone watching here, then, I think that's a good thing because those people should be rewarded for the practices that they have. And so I'm going to shout out the LCSs later on in this video. But yeah, that is funny that, that people are always a little apprehensive to name them. I was in Pittsburgh a few months ago and stopped in, bought a stack of back issues to complete some runs, about 40 bucks. And when the dude totaled it up, it came to around $275. And he just looks at me and goes, $240, sound good? I happily paid that and said I'd see him next time I was in town. Yeah, I love that. I love it when the LCS is like, yeah, you know what? Let me just give you 35 bucks off. Here you go. You didn't even ask for it. It's like the funny thing is like, I bet this person would have happily paid $275, but it just makes their day so much better that they only have to pay $240. Like that's always so good. My LCS is FMV or higher on all books, which is unfortunate. At least they're all priced out though. No guessing on what you will pay. I will never understand pricing at the counter and I would not shop anywhere that does that. Yeah, I totally agree with this right here. I don't mind if a LCS has a high price on a book because fine, your price is your price. Like if that's what you want for it, hey, go for it. But at least I don't have to go into this like odd exchange with you where I'm like, hey, like, what do you have on this book? And then they price it at the counter. And then like when you price it way above what I would think that it's worth or would want to pay for it, I go, oh, never mind. Thanks. And it's such an annoying thing to have to go through pricing at the counter. Do you guys remember when that was like, maybe it was 2 years ago, there was that viral post going around like, we reserve the right to reprice books at the counter. And what's funny about that now is actually that would be kind of a good thing because a lot of those books are now worth 50% less. So actually, please reprice my books so that I can actually pay current FMV. But I digress. That was actually a post that was, made when everything was going up, like crazy times in 2021. And it was a really, really like funny story, like having to have those experiences with LCSs, like trying to nickel and dime, like, oh, like you found this key digging in the back bin and it's being sold for 20 on eBay. And even though you found it in the dollar bin, I need to charge you 20 now. And I just don't understand that because shouldn't an LCS really just be trying to churn through as much inventory as possible? Like, so what if you don't get the highest sold price on a book or whatever? So what if somebody finds it for $5 and it's selling on eBay for $15? Like, you just want to go through your inventory. I mean, Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Leave it in the comments. But it feels like if inventory is moving, like you're probably running a successful business. Now, I mean, maybe if someone found an AF-15 in your dollar bin, like, sure, maybe you need to reprice that one. But at the same time, what is an AF-15 doing in your dollar bin? That's kind of the work, right? Like you kind of have to run your business, be diligent, know what you have in your inventory, because otherwise you have people doing the work for you. They're digging through the bins and finding all the keys or all these, great books or whatever, and then they're bringing it to the counter. And so you're really just sort of crowdsourcing the work that it actually takes to run the LCS. And on the top of that, I'm of the type of buyer who likes to find deals. And it's not so much that if you just have this book, like, oh yeah, I found it, I want to buy it. Like really to me, it's, well, you have this book, sure, I'd be happy to own it, but I'd only be happy to own it at a certain price point. And I think that that's the thing that maybe stores don't quite understand, or some dealers don't always understand, that they're competing with a global marketplace. Like now more than ever, like you can find comics everywhere. There is online retailers, there are LCSs, there are auction houses, there are Instagram, there's Whatnot, there's eBay. Everywhere you go, you can find every single book. I mean, there are very few books, even the major keys, even Golden Age books, that you can't find. Like, save for, I don't know, Suspense 3. Eventually, all these books come around to auction if you're patient enough. So you never really need to buy a book then, there, and now, especially if it's like, a Marvel or DC silver or bronze or Copper Age key or whatever. Like, just because you have it in the shop doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. Like, doesn't mean that, like, oh my God, I've been unable to find this book forever. It's like, no, I can easily find this book. So if you're going to match an eBay price, it just kind of begs the question, like, why would I buy it here if I can find it for cheaper somewhere else? I mean, yes, I get to walk away with it, but I mean, can't we both win? Like, you can give me a little bit of a discount. I get to support the local business. I get to have it now. You undercut the eBay price. I don't know. It's like the first comment. Like, I'd rather, sell a book for $8 than have it sit on the shelf for $10. I feel like that's the best way to do it. My favorite LCS frequently lets me go through collections he's recently picked up before he gets the chance to price and put them out. A few months ago, I came across a Marvel Spotlight 2 and I freaked out a little as I collect old horror. It was missing the back cover, but it was in decent shape otherwise. He knew how excited I was and told me I could have it for free when I asked how much he wanted it for. After that, I usually spend a little more than I normally would every time I go in. That's awesome. Again, surprise and delight, and I'll give you all my money, for the rest of my comic collecting life. It's odd that so many store owners and vendors at conventions would rather hold onto things indefinitely than make money and build their customer base. I've seen vendors have the exact same stock at the exact same prices at convention after convention, and I've seen stores with the same exact stock at the same prices week after week. Those two stores you visited sound great and look to be very good. Charge a little less, give a discount, build a faithful customer base. Wish I had that around me. Well, that is an interesting thing and almost a little bit different of a conversation. I think we're all familiar with going to the comic book conventions and the dealers that have, the sticker prices, the 2021 sticker prices. And, the truth is, like, I think a lot of those types of dealers, a lot of those types of books, frankly, they're not looking to sell those books. I mean, they just have to have those keys on their wall, and really they just use it as a billboard and an advertisement to bring people to their booth so that people can buy out all their dollar bins. That's really what they want to sell. They just want to sell their bulk. They want to, move the stuff that they have a cost base of zero out of. I mean, this is the other thing, why some dealers, I think, put the prices of comics on the back of the book. I made my little rant about how I'd like to have the price on the front of the book, but, people put it on the back because, again, they just need to attract people to the booth. They don't actually want to sell their ASM 1 or their X-Men 1 or whatever it is, their giant size. They just want people to buy out their bin stock because replacing your wall books is hard. Like, it's easy to find, replacements for your bins, but replacing your wall books is always going to be really tough. And so I don't think dealers are that motivated to move it. And while you would think that you would want to kind of build up a customer base and do the whole thing, I wonder if this applies a little bit more to the LCS than it does to the dealers, because, the dealers travel around the country. And yes, while they do have some repeat clients and some repeat business, I have to imagine that the turnover for those people is a lot higher because you're going from state to state, show to show, versus an LCS. It's the same community that's coming in. So you want to build those relationships as strongly as you can. But for the dealers, it doesn't quite work the same way. But yeah, I mean, that's what it is. They don't really want to sell those books. Those are the pry it out of my hands prices, which again, is sort of why like they're never really going to move those books because you can find them everywhere. I mean, again, it is so few and far between books that you cannot find. Like even some golden age stuff, like eventually it rolls around. Just watch Heritage Auction week after week. And if you have patience, everything will come around. I don't like speaking negatively about businesses, but there's a comic shop back home that I used to frequent. The guy working there always seemed a bit distant and sarcastic, which made it uncomfortable to interact with him. Still, I kept going for about 6 years. I wondered if I had somehow offended him, but all I did was pop in, say hello, occasionally ask for assistance, and of course buy my comics. One particular day stands out vividly in my memory. It was the release of ASM 36, the black issue, and it was on my pull list. However, when I went to pick it up, he claimed I didn't have a subscription, even though I had signed up a year prior. After some searching, he admitted it was an error and said he'd fix it. As I headed to the back to find the issue, he stopped me halfway and said it was sold out. Then he asked if I wanted to continue my subscription with only a couple more issues left. Feeling obliged, I agreed, but left a sour taste in my mouth. It wasn't just about missing out on a comic I had subscribed to. It was the feeling that I wasn't valued as a customer, especially when he casually mentioned I could end my subscription anytime. That incident dampened my enthusiasm for collecting, and gradually I found myself visiting the shop less and less until I eventually stopped altogether. Yeah, that's a whole other, can of worms, the whole pull list game. There's a lot of those shops that, you put a hot book on your pull list. Maybe you have Ultimate Spider-Man #1 on your pull list, or you have Spider-Boy, #1 on your pull list, and then it becomes a hot book. And then conveniently, the shop's like, we didn't get it, and then you go to their eBay account and they're selling it for, whatever it is, $50. And that's a whole other business practice. And again, this is why I thought this thread was so interesting to talk about. Here you have just tons of accounts of people saying their great stories and their horror stories of the LCS. And again, what is so interesting to me and why I felt this was so video worthy was the fact that it seems to resonate with people so much. Like just the experience people have with the LCS and the polarity of it. Like people have either amazing experiences and it's mind-blowing to them, or they have terrible experiences and they have to vent about it. And so that's why I wanted to share it with you guys and go over this article. What is your current experience with your LCSs? How is it going out there? Does your LCS price at the counter? If your LCS prices at the counter, frankly, I don't want to go to that business. But there are businesses that don't price at the counter that are near me that I should give a shout out to. I'll put these Instagrams in the description. This is just a couple LCSs in the Los Angeles area that if you guys ever find yourself here, you want to visit some stores, I highly recommend. We've got Spiro's Heroes Comics, We Can Be Heroes Comics, and House of Secrets in Burbank. I love going to these 3 stores. They're great. They do great sales. They're the types of stores that always, give you discounts even when I don't ask for them. They're the ones that are like, yeah, let me just mark 15% off. And they got great books and great keys. Anyways, that's all right for this video. That was me sharing that Reddit post about someone having a mind-blowingly good experience at an LCS. What do you guys think about that? Have you had good experiences at your LCS recently? Tell me what's going on out there. I'm going to be at a comic book convention this weekend, WonderCon. If you're going to be there, come say hello. I think I want to do a talk to dealers video. What do you guys think about that? I've been thinking about, maybe having that interview thing. I haven't done it in a while. Maybe I can ask them about CGC. We can ask them about some of this dealer stuff. Let me know if you guys want me to do that type of video because I don't know anymore. I don't know what you guys want. Anyways, that's all I got for this one. Like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.